Code Geass is a masterpiece. There's no reason to drag this video on. You can click off now. You got what you came here for. If you've seen Code Geass, and you probably knew I was gonna say that already, because there's only one way to describe what I just saw. Masterpiece. And I say this as somebody who's not even done watching Code Geass yet. I've only finished season 1. That's how strongly I feel about Code Geass. That's how worthy of praise Code Geass is. Frankly, I can't believe it took me this long to even start watching Code Geass. We'll get to all of that. There's so much that needs to be discussed. I don't even know how I'm going to structure this video, but I feel like first and foremost, the thing that I love the most about Code Geass is the character work. This anime has not only some of the greatest characters that I've ever seen, but the dynamic between each and every character. It's so good. The two characters that I want to start this video on, of course, it has to be Lelouch and Suzaku. It's what the entire season is about, and it's what season 1 wrapped up on, and it's just stuck in my mind right now, that final showdown between Lelouch and Suzaku. So the story follows our main character Lelouch, and for the longest time, even when I didn't watch Code Geass, I just always heard Lelouch is one of the greatest MCs in all of anime. I was like, really? So I got done watching Code Geass season 1, and now that I can give a semi-adequately informed opinion, I can say, yeah, I can see why people would say that. It's probably because there is a lot of merit to it, and he might just be the greatest MC of all time. So obviously, I learned a little bit more about Lelouch since my last video on Code Geass. He is the 11th Prince of Britannia. He is royalty, and it's very important to mention, we're about to get political. This entire anime is political. Lelouch within the hierarchy of Britannia is not a part of a marginalized group. He should be at the top of the social pecking order when it comes to people that live within Britannia. Point being, he is not somebody that would be oppressed, yet he wants to take down Britannia because to him, his sole reason for existing is Nunnally. Everything we've heard about Britannia, everything we've known, and everything we've seen, this is a country in which the strong oppress the weak. And Lelouch says it multiple times himself when he's playing up as Zero, that he wants to create a world in which the strong will not oppress the weak, and his reasoning for this is because his sister Nunnally is blind and she cannot walk. In the eyes of Britannia, she is about as weak as it can get. And if you finish season 1, we even get to see how Britannia uses Nunnally herself as a chess piece to get at Zero. It's pretty clear, it's pretty evident to anybody that has eyes that this is not a safe regime for Nunnally to live under. So for that reason, Lelouch wants to tear down Britannia. I think that that's a pretty lofty goal, but I love it. I love ambitious MCs. I think in that sense, Lelouch is a pretty altruistic character, but he's obviously flawed, and we'll see. We'll talk about it later. On the flip side, you have Suzaku, who wants to reform Britannia himself. Suzaku doesn't want to destroy Britannia like Lelouch does, but he does want to change it. And we see Suzaku say multiple times that he believes that Britannia can be changed from within. What's interesting about Suzaku is that unlike Lelouch, he is Japanese. He is actively oppressed by the Britannian government, yet he chooses to fight alongside Britannia. This is where you see how Lelouch and Suzaku are pretty different. They both want to change Britannia in their own way. However, Lelouch is not marginalized, he's not oppressed, he is royalty, yet he chooses to fight against Britannia. Suzaku is Japanese, he is a minority, he is oppressed, yet he chooses to fight with Britannia. I think that's about as cool of a dynamic as you can get. That's awesome. They both have similar goals to reform the hierarchy, but their social status is about as opposite as you can get. But it's not just their social status that's opposite, it's the way they go about achieving the goal that they have set. Lelouch is very much about reaching that goal by any means necessary. When he forms the Black Knights, we see the Black Knights question him, hey, you're Zero, you're not showing your face, we don't know who you are, how do we know that we can trust you? And Lelouch answers, Zero answers, the same way every time. Zero gets results. The results don't lie. To Lelouch, the result is everything. He doesn't care about getting his hands dirty, he doesn't care about how many people he has to use his Geass on. To Lelouch, it doesn't even matter how many of his own family members he has to kill, as long as he gets one step closer to taking down Britannia. He is as happy as can be. Suzaku is the opposite, in which, yeah, they might have similar goals, but to him, the goal doesn't matter if you go about it in an underhanded way. I remember when Colin and Suzaku were stuck on that island and they ran into each other. Suzaku found out that Colin was a part of the Black Knights, and he said, hey, you don't have to do this. I understand your reasoning, I understand your end goal, however, the way that you're going about it is not right. Okay, so that's the key. Lelouch just wants to achieve his end goal. He'll kill people, he doesn't care. Suzaku Suzaku is just as adamant about reaching his end goal as Lelouch is. However, he wants to play it by the book. He's a stickler for the rules. He wants to do it the quote-unquote the right way. I love that because in my opinion, it's kind of like, what type of person are you in real life? The type of person that you are in real life, you think about that question. You pose yourself that question. What do I care about more? The end goal or the way in which I achieve that goal? I feel like depending on your answer, you might lean one way or another. I personally found Suzaku to be quite annoying. So that might be, there's my answer, I guess. However, Suzaku is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, absolutely a phenomenally written character. It's, you know, sometimes you could just shut your mouth. You could just stop talking. Because personally, in my experience watching Code Geass, I found myself aligning closer to Lelouch's line of thinking than Suzaku's. But the reason I mention these two characters, and I bring them up first, is because the entire anime revolves around these two characters. The entire story is about Lelouch getting the Geass from C2 and then trying to destroy Britannia and achieve his goal, which is actively against Suzaku's goal. Now, I mentioned that there are some similarities in their goal because they do have a problem with the current hierarchy of Britannia, right? There's a similarity in that sense in which they want to change Britannia in their own individual way. However, at the end of the day, their goal is absolutely different and do not coincide. You cannot achieve Lelouch's goal while also achieving Suzaku's goal. It doesn't work like that. The closest thing possible to that was the Special Zone, which of course we all know how that panned out if you watch Code Geass. But besides that, you know, kind of similar motives. You can see that they want to change Britannia, but very distinctly different. So the story follows Lelouch and Suzaku, two childhood best friends, as they are fighting against each other unknowingly to achieve their goal that is on the opposite side of the board. It's the coolest thing ever, and I can start to see why there's so much chess visualization, because this really is a chess match, except you don't know that your opponent, the guy sitting opposite of you, is your best friend from childhood until that final episode. And oh my gosh, that final episode of Code Geass R1, it might be one of the, I don't know, it's up there. It's so good. I do want to point out before I move on, both Lelouch and Suzaku are flawed characters. I kind of dunked on Suzaku a little bit. Lelouch is just as flawed of a character. And yeah, I say that Lelouch is flawed for a couple of reasons. The main one being is that he always says, this is for Nanali's sake. I'm gonna destroy Britannia for Nanali. Nanali is the reason he even has this ambition to begin with. So my question is, obviously Nanali doesn't know that Lelouch is Zero. Would she condone what Lelouch is doing? Would she get behind the murder of her brothers and her sisters? Obviously I think not. Like, I think it's pretty obviously not. Nanali is about as sweet and as caring of a character that you'll find in Code Geass. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she would want to just destroy Britannia herself. I highly doubt it though. But I would love to see Lelouch come face to face with Nanali's opinions on Zero / him. He hasn't discussed the topic of Zero with Nanali, but he has with Suzaku, and yeah, we all know how that panned out. So, but anywho, I would say that both of these characters are neither all good nor all bad. I would say Suzaku is the one that probably has the more positive outlook, but this guy killed his father. I don't think I mentioned that Suzaku killed his father as a child. His father was the former prime minister of Japan, so that's a defining character trait that gets brought up time and time again, even by Lelouch saying, you killed your father. Oh my gosh, you guys are violent. You know, tell me how you really feel. And then Lelouch, it's pretty obvious that he's not all good either, especially when he's all about getting your hands dirty if it means accomplishing the end goal. Especially when we find out that Lelouch, in order to reach his end goal, has not only just killed Britannian soldiers, he's not only killed his brothers and his sisters, he ends up killing civilians. And not only does he kill civilians, he kills Japanese civilians as well. This guy's killing everybody. The first jaw-dropping moment in Code Geass, in my opinion, is when Lelouch tells Colin, hey, how about you blow a shockwave into the earth, cause a landslide, whatever. A lot of people get caught up in that landslide. A lot of soldiers, a lot of people that are just point blank period, not even supposed to be in it. Collateral damage, civilians. And one of those civilians that ended up dying in that landslide was Shirley's father. And then we get one of my favorite scenes in Code Geass with an awesome OST. Great OST in this anime, by the way. And Shirley asks Lelouch, hey, if Zero is all about protecting the weak, how come he killed my father? Completely unknowing the fact that she is speaking to Zero face to face, and then she kisses Lelouch. She kisses Zero. Zero just killed your father. You kissed him. Oh my gosh, what am I as a viewer supposed to think in this? I feel like a fly on the wall and like my eyes just got violated. I don't, this is uncomfortable. I don't even want to be here right now. Whatever, jaw-dropping moment aside, jaw-dropping moment. That was the first time that we really come face to face with, hey Zero, you're killing civilians here. And how does Lelouch answer? You might be asking yourself. Well, of course, as any rational thinker would, by using his Geass to erase her memory, you know, because that's not morally ambiguous at all. It's funny, within that same Mao arc, we gotta talk about the Mao arc, although was I the biggest fan of it? I don't know. It was the first time the viewer is introduced to the concept of, hey, there's more than just one Geass user out there. It's more than Lelouch. There's multiple people that have the Geass out there. Mao is the first person we meet. How many more Geass users are there out there? I don't know. It's not answered in season 1. I'm sure that we'll see them in season 2. With the introduction of V2 at the end of season 1, my current hypothesis is that Suzaku getting the Geass. I don't know how it would work with his character because Suzaku is so high and mighty, but maybe his Geass is to turn any marginalized group into a bootlicker, but I don't, just a suggestion. And while we're on the subject of Geass, I could very well transition this into talking about the Euphemia moment, but I'm gonna save that for now because as of right now, I want to talk about the hostage arc. I really like that segment where, hey, Japanese people, they got some hostages. Lelouch's classmates are caught up in the mix. Euphemia sticks up for that one girl with the glasses that did it on the table. And if I'm not mistaken, that arc, that segment, the hostage situation, that's when the Black Knights form. That's when Zero takes advantage of the media to get people to join the Black Knights and get behind the Black Knights cause by highlighting, hey, we're the Black Knights. I'm Zero. Here, I saved these people. You know, Britannia didn't do it, but Zero did it. So I really like that segment of Code Geass. I want to mention throughout all of this, especially throughout the Mao arc, there's very high importance on C2. You know, I spoke about Lelouch, I spoke about Suzaku. I feel like for the most part, I still understand their character, even if not fully, even though I'm sure that they're going to get fleshed out even more in R2. But C2 is just a giant question mark. There's not much that I know about her, even still after completing season 1. She gave Lelouch the ability to use Geass, but why? They constantly, and I mean constantly, repeat the fact, oh, C2, you're my accomplice. Yeah, we're in this together. Keep in mind, Lelouch has a contract in which he has to uphold to C2, and we don't know what that contract is. We have no idea. I mean, they constantly refer to C2 as a witch. I mean, the contract could literally be, hey, Lelouch, once you achieve your goal, you have to kill Nonali. Could be something like that. I doubt it, but, you know, let me just throw out some ideas, I guess. But yeah, Lelouch receiving the ability of Geass is a contractual partnership, I suppose, with C2. And I love how in Code Geass, they constantly make remarks. This is the thing about Code Geass. There's these little one-off remarks that might seem, you know, innocuous at first, but once you really dive deep, there's a lot more that meets the eye. Like in that same episode where Lelouch accidentally tells Euphemia to kill the people of Japan, Lelouch has this line about you should be aware of using borrowed power. Obviously, you know, the bell should be ringing in your head like, hey, Lelouch, that's you. You're the one using stupid. You're using borrowed power. Of course, this was foreshadowing. I didn't expect it to come in the same episode. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to come to bite Lelouch in the ass. And boy, it sure did. It sure did when he sent that order out to Euphemia accidentally. However, I feel like we got to talk about Euphemia at least a little bit before we talk about what happened on that episode. So I believe that Euphemia was sub-viceroy of Area 11. So I believe the power that she had did not match that of like Cornelia. But just watching the way that Euphemia acted and spoke, it was pretty clear that she was about literally like, imagine if Nonali became a viceroy. That's what Euphemia would be. She was just kind, light, caring, and actually cared about the Japanese people so much so that she proposed the idea of a special zone, which would be kind of like this enclave in which Japanese people, Britannians, and anybody else that lived within it would be on equal footing. There would be no second-class citizens. So far, she has been the only person in a position of power that has made even an effort to dismantle the hierarchy of Britannia, or at least make it so that Japanese people are not looked down upon, right? So I'm thinking this is great, right? This is perfect. It's special zone, Japanese people, Britannian, living along happy ever after, right? But of course, I look at the episode count because I'm looking at the episode count. I'm like, there's a whole season 2. This is not going to be sunshine and flowers, is it? Well, Lelouch shows up. He's talking about killing her and doing this and that. Well, whatever. Lelouch, ultimately, he comes around to the idea of the special zone and he starts telling Euphemia, oh yeah, I had all this planned out and you would have shot this and you would have done this and that. And then Euphemia's like, I wouldn't have done that. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time that Lelouch tries to tell anybody other than C2 about his Geass ability, and he says to Euphemia while looking directly in her eyes, he says, yeah, I mean, if I would have told you, hey, go out there and slaughter every Japanese person, you would have done it. And that's what caused arguably the most baffling moment in season 1, because Lelouch had overused his Geass up until that point and used it without meaning to on Euphemia, and she goes out there and orders the slaughter of every Japanese person in the vicinity. Might literally be one of the best episodes in Code Geass. I don't know. It's that or the final episode of season 1. So far, those have been absolute jaw-dropping 10 out of 10 episodes. To be that close to achieving your goal, fine, you know, it's not what Lelouch maybe had in mind from the very beginning, but it was an opportunity that Zero was willing to accept, and when you thought that everything was going about as well as it can possibly go, using borrowed power caught up to him. It was wow, like just absolutely mind-blowing. Obviously, all of these deaths and all of this blood is on Lelouch's hands. It's on Zero's hands. Will anybody ever find out about it? Suzaku. But as for the general public, I don't know, and I don't think so. I think if the Japanese people found out that either A, Zero was a Britannian prince, or B, find out that he's the one that ordered the deaths of all these Japanese people, he wouldn't have any support. Of course not. But after giving that order, Lelouch himself is forced to kill Euphemia in front of Suzaku, and Suzaku and Euphemia had a very interesting relationship in which she had asked Suzaku to be her knight. However, they had quite a little bit of a relationship, so obviously seeing Euphemia die in front of him at the hands of Zero infuriated Suzaku and changed his character to the point where he had no qualms about having to kill Colin. If she was a part of the Black Knights, he would do anything it takes to avenge Euphemia. So after that, we see Suzaku become a colder character, and we see the impact of the Euphemia moment where everybody is labeling Euphemia as this witch, as this monster, unknowing that she genuinely had great intentions. Masterful writing, masterful arc, just, oh my gosh, Code Geass is so good. Obviously, Suzaku, knowing Euphemia personally, knew that this is not something that she would ever do on her own accord, and that's when Suzaku finds out about Geass from V2. And following that, we have a couple extra fights, like, you know, we see the return of Orange Boy, Jeremiah. We have the fight with Cornelia where Lelouch reveals himself to be, Zero reveals himself to be Lelouch in front of Cornelia. And I love how every time Lelouch unmasks himself to somebody, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. This guy hates Britannia. I mean, but anywho, Lelouch asks Cornelia what happened to his mom. And, you know, shocker, surprise, surprise, we still don't know. By the end of season 1, I still have no clue what happened to Lelouch's mom. And it's hard for Lelouch to kind of accept the fact that even Cornelia has no idea what happened to his mom. But he has to, because C2 informs Lelouch that Britannia has captured Nonali and they took her to that island. So you know what Lelouch does? He heads out, he abandons a mission, he abandons everyone, he abandons the Black Knights, and he goes on to that island to save Nonali. And then Suzaku follows, Colin follows, and we get the grand finale of season 1, what I call the greatest episode in all of Code Geass so far, where Suzaku shoots the mask off Zero and it's revealed that it's Lelouch. And again, in typical fashion, you know, Suzaku is like, well, I figured as much. And we're left on this cliffhanger in which Suzaku is pointing the gun at Lelouch, Lelouch is pointing the gun at Suzaku, and a gunshot goes off and we have no idea what happened. Now, I have some predictions, I have some speculations. Now, mind you, Lelouch gave Suzaku a command to live. I haven't mentioned that yet. But when Suzaku was willing to give his own life in order to get Zero killed, Lelouch gave him the order, you better live. And we've seen glimpses of that command flashing back in as if it's still active. And I don't know how long Geass commands last for. I'm assuming forever, or else it's gonna be really awkward when the time limit goes by and Shirley remembers what Zero did to her father. But I'm assuming that Suzaku is gonna have this live command forever, and I mean, he definitely has it as of right now. He probably gets out of there. If I had to guess, he probably just runs away like a little coward. As for Nonali, we still don't know if she's safe. If she's not, I'm anticipating that she is not. She's very evidently the piece that the Britannian army is using in order to get at Zero, because Lelouch has said multiple times, like, Nonali is the entire reason that he's doing what he's doing. If he achieves his goal but he doesn't have Nonali, then what was the point of it all? And I mean, I guess it makes sense. Although it does make him selfish, Suzaku is right in that sense. Ultimately, just what an anime. There are some subplots that I didn't mention or talk about yet, like Ogi and that one Britannian soldier that Shirley shot. You also have the Chinese Federation, which is like this third party that's also in the mix. And then you have the entire plot line with Nina, who's also trying to get revenge for Euphemia. So there's so many layers to this anime, so many different layers. If I talked about it all, we'd be here forever. here. And also, I just don't know it all. A lot of these plot lines are incomplete because I'm assuming that they're going to be finished in season 2. What I expect out of season 2 as somebody that just finished season 1 is probably higher stakes for Lelouch. It seems like a lot of the people that have suffered from Lelouch's, reign with the Geass are people that Lelouch doesn't really care about. Shirley's father died as a result, but that's not, why does Lelouch care? He had to kill Clovis, but he was going to do that anyways. He had to kill Euphemia, but he was going to do that anyways. When is Lelouch going to feel a gut punch? Something that actually affects him far more than anything we've seen before. Truth be told, if you want me to just come out and be 100% honest, I'm expecting either Nanali or Suzaku to die. Those seem to be the most important people in Lelouch's life, and honestly, the way that I view this anime panning out is that Lelouch probably attains his goal and he sits atop the throne, having successfully founded the United States of Japan, but he has nobody. He has nobody with him. He has no Nanali or no Suzaku, one or the other. Maybe both. Who knows? Maybe everybody dies. That's the type of anime I anticipate Code Geass to be after watching it. This does not seem like the type of anime to have a happy ending. And it shouldn't. Code Geass shouldn't have a happy ending. Lelouch is a horrible person. He's killed hundreds of thousands of people. If Lelouch doesn't end up losing it all, it's almost going to seem unfair, unjust in a way. Lelouch has killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people, and at the end of the day, he gets his way? That can't happen. That would be injustice if Lelouch got his way at the end of the day. No, everything that Lelouch cares about has to be destroyed. Everything that Lelouch loves has to die. I don't make the rules, okay? I'm just predicting. Ultimately, I think that's the way that Code Geass is going to end if I had to assume. I mean, it's all about the sacrifices Lelouch makes in order to achieve his goal. Suzaku said it best himself. If you achieve your goal in an underhanded way, ultimately you're going to be left with regret and just emptiness. That's what I expect for Lelouch. He's going to have absolutely nothing by the time he does accomplish his goal. But regardless, by the end of season 1, Code Geass is already an all-timer. I can see why this anime gets the love that it does. Rightfully so. And it needs more. So I'm glad that I was able to talk about Code Geass. And if you made it this far, please make sure to subscribe. I'm very grateful to have been put on to Code Geass by all of you. Thank you very much.